I'm back, and so is the DNVR Broncos podcast. What is going on? Henry Chisholm, Zac Stevens here, rolling with you. And Ryan said, I need another day off from Zac. So he was like, Zac wasn't here yesterday. I'm not going to be here today. And Henry, you do not get a break from either of us.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking this morning, like, maybe it would be a good idea to, like, sit this one out. Like, wait until I can breathe again. But then Ryan couldn't go, so I was like, well, I guess here we go.
Here we go.
Yep.
Henry's back, too. He never left, and the DNVR Broncos podcast is here, and there may be someone else back in Denver. Vance Joseph. Let's dive into the defensive coordinator news because this is a wild ride that Sean Payton has taken us on. But first, I got to tell you about our presenting sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Go check them out and use that promo code DNVR to get in on Avs, Nuggets, anything. We gave out Nuggets being a winner last night. DraftKings boosted that to plus 100. If you got in on that, you won money on the Nuggets. So check them out, DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that promo code DNVR. And as our friend Cody says in the comments, smash the like button, everyone. We would really appreciate it. Henry, this coaching search has just been crazy. Starting off with the head coach, obviously we've dove into that, all the twists and turns. It was a roller coaster. It was your roller coaster that we were riding on, Hank. And now this defensive coordinator position, arguably, and I think it's not even arguably, I think it is the most important position left on the Broncos staff because Sean Payton's going to run the offense, and defense is more important than special teams, in my opinion. So this defensive coordinator position has just been wild right after Sean Payton is hired. In fact, actually before Sean Payton was hired, there were rumors that Vic Fangio was going to be his defensive coordinator, and how juicy would that be, bringing him back to Denver? Not until yesterday was that officially put to bed as he finally signed that contract with the Miami Dolphins. Then we get some more names. Rex Ryan being thrown out there as a big one. And then last night we get a Vance Joseph name thrown out there because the Broncos have officially requested permission from the Arizona Cardinals to interview Vance Joseph. And then one more thing that was thrown out there was last night, Ian Rappaport called Rex Ryan a top candidate to get the job. And then this morning, he went a step further and called him the favorite to get the job. So we have two big names here in Denver potentially fighting for this job. And then there's even more names thrown in. But let's start with the top two. Henry, when you see that the Broncos want to talk with Vance Joseph, what do you think?
No, I don't.
That right there just summed up pretty much how Broncos Country seems to feel on the internet.
It's just why. Like, he's not a bad defensive coordinator. At the very worst, he's average. At the very best, he's like, good, I guess. But
you're being nice.
You think so?
I think you are. I think you are.
I mean, you look at what he did with that defense last year, and it was really impressive. I mean, they
Vance
2021 last year, not 2022 last year.
Okay.
But 2021, I mean, a top 10 defense. He's had basically zero talent the entire time he's been in Arizona. He's mostly finishing right around 20th, and I think that's about where you expect. I'd say that's average. You throw in the one good year he had, and I say, like, that was a good to really good year. All balances out to, like, he should be an NFL defensive coordinator. He's an above average defensive coordinator. But again, you have to remember, like, that doesn't mean he should be a head coach. It just means he's a defensive coordinator. Like, he's solid. You're fine. And if he's the backup plan, that's fine.
And that's what we're talking with him about, is being the defensive coordinator, not a head coach. But Henry, I think you went one step further than I would. I would say average is about as good as I can call him. He's been in control of the defense since 2016. Of course, 1 year with the Miami Dolphins as their defensive coordinator before becoming the Broncos head coach for 2 years. And then right after the Broncos fired him, the Arizona Cardinals hired him to be their defensive coordinator the last 4 years. And in those times, he has been top 10 in yards or points per game once. Once. That was with the first year with the Broncos when he was with them. The Broncos were the third best team in terms of yards per game. That same year, the Broncos were 22nd in points per game. And remember, this is a defense that was just 1 year removed from being an all-time great defense. So he had talent there,
that's true.
was able to do it in terms of yards per game, but not able to do it points per game. And so when you look, Vance Joseph has been in control of the defense for 7 years. 3 of those 7 years, he's been in the top half of the league in terms of yards allowed per game. He's also been in the top half of the league in points per allowed per game in 3 of the 7 years. The other years, though, and by the way, the only time he's been in the top 10 was that 1 year in 2017 when he was only top 10 in terms of in yards per game, not even points per game. The other times, he's been 4 of the 7 years. He's been in the bottom half of the league in yards and points per game. And just last year, he was in control of the second worst defense in the NFL in terms of points per game. And to be fair, you can't just look at last year. The past 2 years before that, he was 11th in points per game, 12th in points per game. So you could see pretty good results there. The year before that, 28th in points per game. So I would say that Vance, at best, averages out to an average defensive coordinator. Now, Henry, we are sitting here on February 16th. A lot of defensive coordinators have been poached. So maybe average isn't the worst, actually, if that's what you're looking for right now.
Yeah. Again, just with all the numbers are bad. The players are even worse, though. And I just want to reiterate that. I mean,
they've invested a lot on that defense.
Yeah, but on bad players. Like Isaiah Simmons, you're like, oh, he's this freakish guy. And maybe you put some of it on Vance for misusing him. But now you're just like, yeah, there's a reason that those guys never really got drafted that high before because he's just kind of a tweener. Zaven Collins, and they're starting Dennis Gardick and Rashard Lawrence and Jalen Thompson and Marco Wilson. And there's a lot of really bad players in Arizona. And so I think that you have to factor that in too.
What about J.J. Watt?
Old as hell. But you have J.J. Watt, you have Budda Baker, but every team's going to have a couple good players.
Sure.
There's just so many bad ones and basically no depth behind any of them.
What takes me and takes it from me calling him average at best to being concerned about it and not really wanting this higher is what the guys in Arizona had said. We had Johnny Venerable on the show 2 months ago, and boy, could he not want Vance out of Arizona quick enough. We talked to him last week, and he responded to one of my tweets yesterday, just essentially saying, take him away from Arizona. And so to me, that is a concerning thing. One of the things you said, Isaiah Simmons, a talented guy, top 10 guy, maybe he's not good, but one of the concerns that people in Arizona had, they said that they played him at the wrong position and just did not know how to use him. Same thing with Zaven Collins. Now, again, maybe Vance leaves and those guys still don't produce, but those people have been concerned about the way Vance has used their talent there. So that's something that gives me a little bit of concern. And when I look at Vance, I think of Vic Fangio and think about how these two guys maybe be the complete opposite of who they are. Because when I look at Vic Fangio, he has the resume. He has an incredible resume of being one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. But what was the negative? We talked about bringing Vic back. Players on defense did not seem to love him. So that might have been an issue bringing him back. On the flip side, Vance, players really liked Vance. And you know what? Players, even for having 2 losing seasons, players really gave Vance the benefit of the doubt. They kind of knew that he was in a tough position to succeed with the way that John Elway was running the organization. So players really liked Vance. So he has that going for him. But on the flip side, he does not have the resume to say that he's, he should absolutely get this job. He's going to come in and be a good defensive coordinator. We ran through it. At best, he's been slightly above average on the defensive coordinator side, but he's had a lot of years where he's been below average. So Vance does have one thing going for him, is players would come in and like him a lot. But, man, I'm just so hesitant to bring him back. It has been 4 years, so I don't think there'd be any issues. Obviously, like I said, players felt good about him, so I don't think that would be weird, but man, it would be a tough sell, I think, at least.
Yeah, and I wouldn't touch him if I was the Broncos. I just don't think there's any reason to. There's plenty of options out there. But, I mean, it doesn't even matter if the players like him at this point. Like, he's a coordinator. He goes and sits in his office and schemes and has, like, his one meeting a day. It's not like he's the DB's coach who's out there with the players on the field when they're practicing, in the meeting rooms with them all day, talking. Like, the coordinators just don't really have their hands on the players all that much. And so if that's his big strength,
Hope they never have their hands on their players.
True. Urban Meyer. But yeah, yeah, it's if he's your defensive coordinator, like I said, I still just think he'll be a coordinator in the league for a long time because he's good enough. You can justify it. There's no risk. You don't expect him to exceed expectations, but they'll do what the players give you. And when you bring in Sean Payton and talk about the superstar staff that he could put together, why Vance Joseph? Especially in Denver. You just throw in that part too, especially in Denver. And that's why I say, like, as like a backup to the backup choice, like I guess it's not bad, but that spot should be interchangeable with like 7 other guys around the league where it's like, sure, why not? Let you do it this year and we'll check again next year.
I'd rather take a risk on a young guy, and we're going to talk about some of these other guys in the second segment. I'd rather take a risk on a young guy than go to Vance there. But like you said, Henry, he's going to be in the NFL for a long time because he has produced top 11, top 12 defenses in the NFL, but no thanks, I'll pass. And like you said, if Sean Payton, he's supposed to be able to bring a superstar cast in with coaches, this would not be one. This would be an underwhelming hire. And everyone tuning in live on YouTube, let me know if there's anyone out there that would like this hire, because on the internet, I have not seen it. So let me know if you're tuning in on YouTube. Also, hit us with a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. Henry, another guy who we've talked about already, but now is getting even more buzz, Sexy Rexy Ryan, getting a lot of hype from Ian Rappaport. Like I said, last night he called him a top candidate for the job. This morning he called him a favorite for the job. If he is, they interviewed him last week. Then it's coming out that he's a favorite. Yet, then right after it comes out he's a top candidate, the Broncos then put out a crest to interview Vance Joseph. Why hasn't this deal been done yet?
Who knows? I mean, maybe it's contract negotiations with any of those guys coming from TV. The number has to be pretty big. You wouldn't think that that'd be a sticking point, but that's what it was with Sean Payton. That's why that took a week longer, maybe even more than that, longer than it normally would have, was just because they had to figure out what to give the Saints. So maybe there's something like that going on.
And then really quick, I'm going to build off of that, Henry. Then having an interview request for Vance Joseph could be part of, Rex Ryan saying, I want more money. And then the Broncos in the negotiating process saying, we have other options here. Let's throw this out.
Yeah. And, I don't want to bring this up too badly, but have they interviewed any black coaches? Do we know that? Because you need to require to fulfill the Rooney Rule for this one too, right?
Yes, you do. You have to interview one outside candidate with the coordinators. I believe Sean Desai.
Yeah, he is Indian.
Yeah.
He's the first NFL coordinator of Indian descent.
Exactly. So I think he would have checked that box.
Okay. So that wouldn't be an issue.
Which I hate saying, but
I
know
do exactly.
It is an important thing
when you're
to bring
talking
up,
about
though.
why it could be, like,
right.
There was a chance. But yeah, so I do think, like, maybe you are still looking around. Maybe you just want to hear what they have to say. Rex Ryan, we talked about the multiple defense he wants to run. Maybe you see Vance Joseph is available because Jonathan Gannon comes in, and maybe they were going to retain him. If it was an offensive coach who was going to let Vance continue to run the defense, it could be kind of the like Eric Bieniemy thing where it's like, I want to call plays. And so now he is more interested. Now that has gone down, he's willing to talk with the Broncos. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes, I guess. But he's been here before. The results were fine. And maybe you want to hear what he has to say.
So what about Rex Ryan? Where does he fit in to you? Would you rather have Rex Ryan? Would you rather have Vance Joseph?
I'm so in on Rex Ryan. And I'm so out on Vance Joseph.
So in and so out.
I tweeted this earlier, and nobody cared. Well, somebody said TMI. But I actually was dreaming about Rex Ryan last night.
Oh, my. Feet?
No feet involved.
No feet.
Yeah, no feet. But yeah, no. I was like, basically, it was a house. It wasn't like a cabin, but it felt like kind of like outdoor, like kind of like retreat. Like it was like the entire Broncos coaching staff, which were a lot of blank faces.
Just you and the Broncos coaching staff?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but like Sean Payton was there. I was thinking like, am I gonna wind up on the staff or something? But Rex Ryan just like shows up, and I was just like, whoa, Rex. And Rex is just like telling stories, and he can tell that I'm like, whoa. Listen to what Rex has to say. And so he's like smiling at me. I can't remember. There was more. I made a sandwich at some point. He might have been involved with that. But yeah, so I was legitimately dreaming about Rex Ryan last night.
And you were in awe when he was there as part of the Broncos coaching staff.
Like, he's just, to me, I know I was a little bit hesitant to say stuff like this a couple of days ago when he first came up.
Let it all out.
He's a home run hire. He's a home run hire for a defensive coordinator.
Wow.
I think he is.
Sell me on this.
Oh, I mean, first of all, the guy can coach. Like he can obviously coach. What he did with the Ravens in the 90s through the late 2000s, like with the Jets obviously taking Mark Sanchez to back-to-back conference championships. Everybody knows that part. The guy is a football coach. He can coach football players. And that's a thing that was really missing in Denver last year, especially on the offensive side, not the defense as much. But like, I'm not sure Nathaniel Hackett's like a great coach. Like, you give him the teaching stuff. He does have that side of things, but in terms of just coaching, Jerry Rosburg is a coach. Rex Ryan is a coach. He knows how to come in here and kind of whip guys into shape. And I think that might be kind of what they need. And on top of that, he's a game planner. And like I said, this is kind of takes away from the coaching point, but a defensive coordinator's job a lot of the time is to just come up with the game plan and install it. And what Rex Ryan is one of the very, very, very best at is exactly that. That's why he changed the 3-4 defense that Baltimore is running into that multiple 4-3 into the multiple 3-4, so you can have the 3-4 looks, the 4-3 looks, all that sort of stuff. Same thing in Buffalo. They were running a 4-3. He comes in and changes it to that same 3-4 hybrid, and the results aren't great there. But the reason you do that is because then you get to build around your very best players and say, okay, Pat Surtain's good at this, we have him do this. Justin Simmons good at this, he's doing this. Travis Kelce is the tight end over there. Well, guess what? We have this guy who can line up there, and here's how we patch everything else up around it. When you have somebody like that, you just know that you're going to maximize the talent. And as much fun as it's kind of been having a scheme guy, that's what Ejiro Evero is. That's what Vic Fangio is. Where it's like, here's my defense. And it's all this like hidden disguise. This guy's going to drop. The players don't really matter in that defense. You kind of just run the defense. And it worked fine, obviously. But with Rex Ryan, I wouldn't mind seeing somebody come in and say, okay, Josie's good at this. We're going to use him in this way. The Grandy Gregory's good at this. Let's not drop him in coverage. Maybe you have to in a couple of the 3-4 looks just to keep him honest, but let's really focus on getting him going forward. And I do think that Rex Ryan, it's a lot like Sean Payton offensively. Like, it's so matchup based and so much can change from week to week that, especially compared with the other guys, I'd be super down at this point. Vic Fangio would have been close.
Man, Henry, you bring up, you're able to sell Rex Ryan
good.
Well, except it's a history lesson because you're talking about 2000s, 1990s. In fact, you mentioned how he's, so much of a football guy, a football coach. It's in his blood, literally. His dad, Buddy Ryan, his brother was a defensive coordinator for Sean Payton. And my big question is, if he's that much of a football guy, why has it been since 2016 that he's been in the game? Yeah. Is it just because he hasn't wanted to do it? Does that concern you at all if he hasn't wanted to do it for 7 years and now he wants to jump back in? How much has he lost? How much has he going from a very cushy gig at ESPN getting paid a lot of money while you don't have to work a lot? Is he really going to want to put in all that work and potentially get paid less to do it? Rex Ryan is a huge name. I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken a pay cut in order to come be a defensive coordinator. Now, you could sell that in a way of, man, he just wants it that bad that he's willing to take a pay cut. But those are my concerns. Is just he hasn't done it in so long. The game has changed a lot since he had that massive success. And there's no denying the success that he had with the Baltimore Ravens. But again, that was 15 years ago. Plus, when you look at his defenses when he was with the Jets and the Bills, the first 2 years with the Jets were really good. Then it fell off, and then it was never really there with the Bills. And sure, you can look at personnel and things like that. But I'm just concerned that, man, he was a great coach. We have nothing in the past nearly decade to say that he is a good coach.
Yep, and that's definitely concerning. But I also think that's kind of the only concern for me. There's nothing else that I look at and say, like, well, there's that could go wrong, or there's that could go wrong. The big thing is he just hasn't coached since 2016, and who knows where that leaves him. You would hope that because he was an analyst, that he was, I didn't watch him a whole lot, except for when he was on The Amazing Race. You hope that he is super tuned in. And
I hate that that's what you point to.
I know. And if anybody out there, you'd be crazy not to be watching The Amazing Race in 2023. But
I think you'd be crazy to watch it.
He was terrible at The Amazing Race. Nothing that was like concern you about
Which
him
makes
as a
him
coach.
a good football coach.
Maybe he's just too locked into that stuff. He was entertaining though. Like he did seem like a good dude.
Yeah.
Like I was pulling for him, even though I kind of came in thinking like, foot guy. But yeah, I mean, you'd hope that he's sitting in the studio like watching football every single day and grinding and knows what's up with the league and all that sort of stuff. But there's no guarantee. And again, that is the concern with him. And nobody knows whether it's fine or not fine or anything like that. But everything else about it is just so perfect that if that's the one thing you're risking, I mean, what are you risking with Vance Joseph? The defense were typically ranked in the 20s. What are you ranking with, saying with Sean Desai? He has 1 year of coordinating experience.
And it was bad.
And like, maybe he would have been retained if the head coach had been retained, but part of the reason the head coach wasn't retained was because the defense was so bad.
Yep.
And so you can go through, and there's so many guys. Everybody has a flaw. Vic Fangio was the only one who you could look at and be like, okay, this guy's really good. Everybody's copying his defense.
And coming to Denver, you could have said there was a flaw.
Exactly. And so if you're picking any of the flaws, like to me, this is just like the massive upside hire because there is a good chance that he comes in and he's the defensive mastermind that he was from, 1999 to 2009. And, with the Jets when he found a way to have success with Mark Sanchez, but got fired because he wasn't able to find success with Geno Smith. Like there is more than enough there to say that he could be one of the 5 best defense coordinators in the league. And I don't think it's going to be a massive bust if not.
I am not nearly as high on
That's
you
fair.
with Rex, but Henry, I agree with you. If it boils down to Vance Joseph or Rex Ryan, it's easy for me.
Yep.
You go with Rex Ryan, and if it really were to be down to those two, you make the hire yesterday. You make it a week ago. I do think there is a home run hire that could be had. A home run hire without any flaws. And I'm going to tell you about it after I tell you about our friends over at Athletic Greens, where if you want to feel better, you want to make sure that your feet are feeling great all the way up to your brain. Check out our friends over at Athletic Greens because what it is they send you this powder. You put 1 scoop of it in your water, 8 ounces of water when you wake up, mix it in, and it goes down quickly. And what you're getting is you're getting 75 vitamins and minerals. You're getting probiotics. You're getting whole food source superfoods, and you're getting adaptogens to help get your day started right. It's less than your cup of coffee a day, and they have over 7,000 5-star reviews on their website. So make sure to check them out and go to athleticgreens.com/Broncos to get 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So they're going to give you an incentive to try out Athletic Greens. We've all been on it for years now and love it. So check them out, athleticgreens.com/Broncos.
And I don't have anything funny. If something horrible has happened to you, reach out to Backus and Shanker. So if you were in a car wreck or were hit by a car or motorcycle thing or like you were hurt at work, as long as something bad happened to you and it was somebody else's fault, Backus and Shanker can probably help. They've won over $1 billion for Coloradans over the past 25 plus years. They have more than 30 lawyers. They have the strength and power to win your case. They've got offices all over Colorado. They serve all of Colorado, and there's no fee unless they win your case. So you could go in for your consultation. You can call them at 222-2222 and set up a consultation. They won't charge you for that consultation. If they take your case, they won't charge you for that either unless they win your case. And if you wind up winning money, you will have no problem with giving them a cut of it. Yeah, when you get hurt, Backus and Shanker is here to help. That's 222-2222 to set up consultation.
There we go. Okay, Henry, one more name that came out this morning. Former Saints defensive coordinator Chris Richard has interviewed with Sean Payton for the Broncos defensive coordinator job. Chris Richard, surprise, surprise, worked with Sean Payton
Yep.
in New Orleans in 2021. He was their defensive backs coach before being promoted to co-defensive coordinator last year. So he worked under Sean Payton for one season. This is a name, when we've talked about the defensive coordinator position, that I think we've all mentioned, saying, boy, Sean Payton's building a staff that are guys surrounded by him that have worked with him in the past. He's one that makes a lot of sense. Fired by the Saints, Dennis Allen, this year. So he's a guy that the Broncos could bring in to be their next defensive coordinator. What would you think about him?
I would like it better than Vance Joseph. Like there's a starting point. Like I do think that he'd probably be my second choice right now. Maybe I think Sean Desai and him are kind of like rotating, and then you could throw in the other guys. Like where would Christian Parker fit? Mike Zimmer, some of that stuff. Like I don't know, but in terms of the guys who really seem to have a chance, I think he probably does fit in right behind Rex Ryan for me. And you know the scheme would be interesting. It would seem like he would probably run a 4-3. That would be your guess, which would be a change. We've talked about it on the podcast before. Don't need to dig too deep again today, but I do think it could be a decent fit. He came up as a coach with the Seahawks. He actually, I believe he followed Pete Carroll to the Seahawks from USC.
He did.
Yeah, and so then
he's a big Pete Carroll guy.
Big Pete Carroll guy. He was the cornerbacks coach in 2011, defensive backs coach.
Cornerbacks.
Did I? Oh, yeah.
Just sounded like quarter.
Yeah, I'll blame the nose. I'll blame the nose.
He did not coach Russell Wilson.
No, he did not. Yeah, but cornerbacks in 2011, defensive backs 2012, 13, 14, defensive coordinator in Seattle 2015, 16, 17. What is notable about the cornerbacks and defensive backs? Legion of Boom.
Legion of Boom.
Legion of Boom.
Beat Peyton Manning and the Broncos in Super Bowl 48, and he was a big part of that defense.
Yes, absolutely. So, again, it would be a change schematically, you would expect. And a lot of people are trying to get away from that very basic cover 3 sort of defense that made that team successful. But what made it successful is that they were really talented. And I think that the Broncos don't quite have the personnel to make it work, but they are very, very close. Because you put Justin Simmons in that Earl Thomas deep over the top role. You put Pat Surtain in the Richard Sherman role, and really just let those two cover that big kind of L shape on the backside of the field. Can Damari play the other side? I honestly think so, especially when you look back. Like, Brandon Browner was that guy. Like, it's not like they had 2-star cornerbacks. And what we saw from Damari was really good, and he was only a rookie. And so if that's kind of the frame, and then you're kind of plugging things in with Caden Stearns coming down in the box, potentially, the linebackers in coverage would kind of be the biggest question. But I wouldn't hate the idea of especially putting Pat Surtain in the Richard Sherman role, putting Justin Simmons in the Earl Thomas role, because those are kind of the two key points to making this work. Yeah,
and it's a good point just of exactly what the defense would look like here under Chris Richard. And to me, it would be a fine hire. It'd be a good hire. I don't think it would be a home run hire. I don't think it'd be an incredible hire. He has so much experience in the secondary where I don't really think that's where you need the help, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't hire him, because Pat Surtain's already good and Damari Mathis has shown a lot of progress. So I just think that you could fit this defense a little better than what Chris Richard would bring. And also, only 1 year as a defensive coordinator in the past. I don't need experience, but the 1 year he was fired after he was a co-defensive coordinator last year. So this would just really feel like it was a move of just bringing one of Sean Payton's guys in, and he's going to surround himself with so many guys that he's been around. I'd just like to see some fresh ideas, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. So I think he'd be a good hire. A good hire, not a great hire. Henry, I teased it earlier. The guy who I think would be a great hire.
Real quick, he did have the 3 years as a defensive coordinator in Seattle too. You're right. Number one and number 3 scoring defense.
No, you're right. In 2015, 2016, 2017. Yep, still a very good defense.
Yep.
So you're right. He does have that experience. But a guy who I think that would be a home run hire for the Broncos is Gerard Mayo. And people stopped talking about him because what did the Patriots do when he was getting some head coach when he was getting some head coaching offers and defensive coordinating offers a couple of months ago, the Patriots said, we're going to keep you around. We're going to give you a big raise to your contract. And so they did that. But Henry, what did they not do? They didn't give him a title increase. They did not make him the defensive coordinator. He's still listed as their linebackers coach. So what I would do if I'm the Broncos is I'd say, you're going to be our defensive coordinator so we can interview you. Yeah. And by the way, the Patriots gave you a big pay raise. We're going to give you an even bigger pay raise. Jerod Mayo is one of the hottest, not just linebacker coaches out there or defensive coordinator candidates out there, but one of the hottest head coaching candidates out there. I would do everything in my power to get him and bring him as a member of the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, and the Patriots didn't have a coordinator last year.
Yep.
So it was Jerod Mayo calling the plays.
Right.
So you wonder why they wouldn't just give him the title.
Because Bill Belichick is being weird and doing Bill Belichick stuff.
Yep, and it makes no sense. I do think, though, that he probably wants to stay there. Like, he's been there his entire career. He probably wants to stay in that same system. He already gets to call the plays. Now, if you offer him a lot of money, that could obviously change. But that'll be the sticking point. And if the Broncos were to get Jerod Mayo, I think that'd be an awesome hire. You know, again, that the Patriots defense is another really unique one, kind of hybrid-y defense where a lot like Rex Ryan, play guys just purely to their strengths. They'll make it. I think it's a base 3-4, but they kind of play that hybrid 3-4, 4-3 type deal. Move a bunch of guys around. The linebackers are very versatile, so you'd like the way that Baron Browning would fit in as an outside linebacker there. Again, same thing with Rex Ryan. That's another one that would, to me, just be a home run hire.
Yeah, and now I do think it's probably too much of a dream because I think if push were to come to shove, the Patriots would say, you've been a Patriot your whole life. We'll give you an extra pay raise, plus we will finally give you that defensive coordinator title. But Henry, just blows my mind that the Patriots and Bill Belichick are being so stubborn to not give him that title. Maybe it's because he doesn't want to offend his son about not giving him the defensive coordinator. I don't know what's going on there.
I think they both called some plays, too.
I think you're right. Yeah, it was kind of like a co-defensive coordinator position, but they didn't give them the co-defensive coordinator names, which is just very bizarre. But again, if there's still an opportunity, you at least reach out, win the Pats, and maybe Jerod Mayo shuts it down because he's only been a Patriot. Then you move on to other candidates, and let's talk about some other candidates because I think my candidate, the candidate that I would want if you can't get the dream scenario of getting Jerod Mayo, is from within. Is Christian Parker. Is hire him, 31-year-old defensive backs coach. Look at what he's done or helped do. I'm not going to give him all the credit for Pat Surtain, all the credit for Justin Simmons, but when he's been the Broncos defensive backs coach these past couple of years, only good things have happened. And specifically, you look at Damari Mathis, what Damari Mathis has done in his 1 year being a rookie. I just love that, what he's done. He's very, very highly respected. He was on some teams' radar to potentially be a defensive coordinator, but Henry, he's 31 years old. I think teams were too scared about hiring a 31-year-old defensive coordinator. The Broncos know him better than anyone. He's very well respected in the organization. You have experience at head coach. You're going to have experience on the offensive side. That's where you can take a little bit of a chance, is going young on defense. I would like that instead of getting an average or the best case average scenario by going with a Vance Joseph or an experienced guy that hasn't really proven themselves. I'd like to take a risk here and go with Christian Parker.
I hate that so much. I hate that so much. That is the one spot I would definitely not take a risk. I mean, because you have a good defense. You have a good defense. Don't put that in jeopardy giving it to somebody who you just don't know what to expect from.
You have an average defense, and you are not going... They were literally 15th in the league in scoring. Which, to
with
me,
the advanced stats would all say they're better than that.
That's what matters to me, though, is the scoring. But you're not winning on the defensive side moving forward. You're simply
But you still need a good defense.
You need an okay defense. This team's making the playoffs if they have a top 10 offense, the 10th best offense, and the 15th, 16th best defense.
Or if they flip it, though.
They'll make the playoffs. Yeah, but that's not how this team is going to be built moving forward. No, because last year they were 15th. They're not going to get better, especially because a lot of resources are going to shift from the defensive side to the offensive side of the ball. And I think that's what we need to realize, is this team is going to win on offense, not defense.
Nah, I disagree there too.
Wow.
I really disagree. I mean, they were so good up until those last 4 games, which again were tough opponents, and you factor them in and all that. But you see, I mean, they were one of the 3 or 4 best defenses in the league through the first 2 or 3 months of the season.
But Henry, don't
like. There's no reason they can't sustain that.
Yes, there is, because they hadn't played the Chiefs twice. They're going to play the
they
Chiefs
hadn't played
twice
the Rams yet, and they blew that
every single season. They blew it to the Rams. This
That-
team also, when the offense wasn't scoring, teams got to 20 points and said, we don't need to score points anymore. We're just going to run the clock out. We're not going to try to score. I think this Broncos defense, in a crazy way, really benefited from a bad offense. And then you see once the offense turned it on in the final 4 or 5 games, and they were finally scoring 24 points consistently, and other teams had to score points, other teams had no problem scoring points. In the final 5 weeks of the season, the Broncos gave up 31 points per game. Now, I don't think the Broncos defense is going to be that bad for an entire season, because then that would literally be the worst defense in the NFL by far. That would make Vance Joseph's Arizona Cardinals defense last year, giving up 27 points, look pretty good or okay. They're not going to be that bad, but just to sit here and say that, man, what they did the first half of the season, let's not even look at the second half. They averaged out to an average defense. So I'm not saying this defense is bad. I'm just saying what they were last year, I think, is what we're going to see more of in the future, especially you may not have Draymond Jones. You may be moving on from Damari Mathis. You may be moving on from pieces and then you're not going to invest a whole lot in those. They're going to do what Chris Sims did. Get a whole bunch of effers in here, a whole bunch of big guys in here in order to help the offense.
Yeah, you just have so much talent on that defense, though, with Justin Simmons and Pat Surtain. Damari looks good, too. And all of a sudden, there's a core of the secondary. K'Wan Williams outplayed his contract by a mile. You still have Randy Gregory. You still have DJ Jones. And who knows, maybe Randy gets hurt again. You have all that stuff. But
kind of like you said when we were talking about this earlier, you said with the Cardinals, every team has, 2 to 4 good players. You just ran through 4 players.
I said they have 2 good players, for what it's worth. But
you just mentioned, like, who?
Oh, the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying the Broncos. You just kind of ran through the standard 2 to 4.
Like, on a per snap basis, DVOA, 10th best defense. Like, they will be adding pieces to that defense, too. Like, they will add, I think, at least 1 starter in free agency, which isn't a lot. It's not a big investment. Most teams will add more. But there's no reason this defense can't be a top 10 defense next year. There's no reason at all. And I think that you've had so much success over the past half decade or so. What you could really do to ruin that is make a big change. And I think that there's a good chance that Christian Parker is a good defensive coordinator. And I wouldn't hate it if he did it. I just hate the idea that you gamble on somebody who's an unknown for the unit that has been the core of your team when you're basically guaranteed a top 15 defense if you do take Vance Joseph. I think that is I would be very surprised.
You are far from guaranteed, Henry. He's
I think
had
you
a
are.
top 15 defense less than half of the times that he's run a defense. 3 of his 7 years. So that's far from a guarantee.
And if they bring in Vance Joseph, I will say I guarantee it's top 15. Because he has so much more talent now than he has before. And that's why, I'm not saying...
But, Henry, in 2017, that was a defense that was a year removed from the Super Bowl. You still had Aqib Talib. You still had Chris Harris Jr., but it's still his defense. That's
he has
maybe
to spend
more
time doing
of his
other
defense.
things. No. I think it's the opposite. I think... To me, if I were just looking at how somebody did, I would much rather look at the defensive coordinator work than the head coach work, because your focus is split so many different ways. Like that just changes the dynamic. You don't get to spend as much time focusing on that one thing. Because
so Sean McVay doesn't get credit for the Rams offense?
No, he gets credit for that too.
But you're giving more credit to their offensive coordinator?
I mean, it's...
See, it doesn't add up there.
No, that's not how that works. No, it does line up. Because, see, the thing is, when things go poorly, it's easy to say, like, well, if you're the defensive coordinator, that is your only focus. If you're the head coach and things go poorly, well, maybe he's doing the Sean Payton, I just spent 3 hours trying to pick out which towel we're going to use, and a little behind on the game planning. When you're able to make things work, you make things work. But to me, the idea of taking a risk at defensive coordinator, I hate it.
That's fair.
I really hate it. I really hate it.
That's fair. And we're just going to have to disagree on that, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Because I think that the defense is a place that you can take a risk now. I understand that you can. Any other names you want to throw out there, Henry?
Mike Zimmer still. Now he's kind of getting rumored to the Cardinals as well, so there might be some competition for him.
He's also a Minnesota reporter 2 days ago, I think, said the Broncos do have some interest in him.
Oh, yeah, they absolutely, yes.
So Broncos and Cardinals have some interest in him, and with Mike Zimmer, because right when you say anything about Mike Zimmer, people say, oh, he's already with the Buffs. Well,
no, he's not.
He has there's a reason that he is not the University of Colorado's defensive coordinator. Henry, and my belief, from what I understand, he absolutely would have been the defensive coordinator if he wanted that job. But what he didn't want to do is he didn't want to become the defensive coordinator and then screw over his good friend, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, there by leaving. What I understand is Mike Zimmer wants an NFL job. He wants to get back in the NFL more than anything. So what is his role at CU? He's like
nothing yet.
But he has a role lined up to be like a special assistant or something like that.
Yeah, quality control probably.
Yeah,
Head of quality control would be my guess.
Something like that, because Deion wants him if he can get him, but Mike Zimmer wants an NFL job. So yes, he's tied with CSU. Whether or not it's an official role, you're saying it's not. It doesn't matter what it is, because if he gets offered a defensive coordinator job in the NFL, that is what he's going to do.
Yep, and
it's a good name to throw out there, though.
To me, he'd be a home run if you can get him as defensive backs coach. Like the track record there is incredible. And again, the guy can coach.
Yeah.
It's similar to the Rex Ryan thing where like if he is coaching your defensive backs, they will get better. That is guaranteed. Now, if you can hold on to Christian Parker, that might make more sense, although he's probably just going to leave soon anyway.
Not unless you promote him.
Yeah. I don't know that it's worth it, though. Then the other thing with Zimmer is if you were to make him defensive coordinator, he's another one of those guys where it's like, he'll do the job. He won't screw it up. Like I think that I would take him over Vance Joseph, but I would take him for similar reasons. Just because you know that he's going to be solid, you know he knows what he's doing. He's not going to make major mistakes. Can he turn this into a top 3 defense? I don't know. We haven't seen him do anything like that in a decade. But if you're saying we're going for one of these safe options, I would take him over Vance Joseph.
So when I look at Mike Zimmer, you get to phrase this conversation however you want it. If you don't like him, Henry, you look at his last 2 years when he was a Vikings head coach in charge of that defense. He had 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL, back-to-back years in terms of points and yards allowed. People wanted him gone so quickly because he just wasn't able to do it on the defensive side of the ball, which is what he was supposed to be good at. However, the 6 seasons before that, the 5 seasons before that, which were his 2nd to 6th season with the Vikings, he had a top 10 defense in terms of points per game every single year, nearly a top 10 defense in terms of yards per game as well. So he had a top 10 defense for 5 straight years with Minnesota. That was going up against Aaron Rodgers twice a season. Now, he also got to go up against the Lions and other teams like that, which made it easy. But you can make the argument he's a great defensive mind, and there's no doubt he has tons of experience. He's been in the NFL since 2000, being a defensive coordinator or head coach. So he has so much experience in the NFL. You're getting a guy with experience. But you just look at the last 2 years with Minnesota, and that's where people who don't want him, they would point to those years. I think he would still be a good hire, though.
Definitely. And I think that's just recency bias. Because, I mean, if you just look at the big picture and say, first of all, how many guys are alive today who have held down a head coaching job in the NFL for 8 years?
And a defensive coordinating job for 20 years, 15 years before that.
To hold on to a head coaching job for 8 years, that rarely happens. And to do it while calling plays defensively, like that shows that there's something that's going well there. Whenever he's been defensive coordinator, I mean, I guess there was the 1 year he got fired right away, but I think that was a staff change in Atlanta, so who knows. But 8 years without being fired with the Bengals before he gets promoted to the Vikings, 7 years with the Cowboys, and that's in the prime. That's after he was prime times DB's coach, along with all those other guys. I mean, it's pretty close to a flawless track record, except for those last 2 years. And I think that, again, like it's don't get what's the thing? Don't lose sight of the forest through the trees. Like, yes, there were 2 bad years recently. Let's look at the other 30 that he's been in the NFL, though.
Well, and something that you cannot discount is George Payton's connection
Definitely.
to Mike Zimmer.
Definitely.
One of the reasons why Mike Zimmer had a job for so long was because George Payton, being the assistant general manager, liked him a ton. So if Sean Payton reaches out to George and wants some names, I have to imagine that Mike Zimmer is one of the first people, if not the first guy, that George Payton recommends. The connection there makes a lot of sense. And I got to say, if they hire Mike Zimmer to be the defensive coordinator, what a win for George Payton. It would really show that Sean Payton is relying on George Payton. That would be a huge dub for the future of George Payton's tenure in Denver.
And right before Sean Payton took over with the Saints, he spent 3 years with the Cowboys where he was assistant head coach and quarterbacks coach while Zimmer was the defensive coordinator. So he might be the first one to bring him up.
And as we know in the NFL, it's a lot of times who you know, not necessarily what you know. That's why you see guys get recycled so often, is just because they have buddies in the NFL. And that's why Sean Payton's staff, so far, of the confirmed hires we know, there's all ties back to Sean Payton. There's no new blood in here outside of an offensive quality control coach, Logan Kilgore, that the Broncos have hired. But literally, the tight ends coach, the offensive line coach, all ties back to Sean Payton. That's why when we look at these things, we look at where their ties are. And pretty much all of these moves, there's ties, including one more move that may be coming. There's ties to Sean Payton. Let's talk about that after I tell you about our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, where at DraftKings Sportsbook, you can already bet on the NFL futures. I want to dive into at some point in the next week or so 2024 Super Bowl odds, because DraftKings Sportsbook likes the Broncos more than a lot of people do. So if you want to bet on the Broncos to win next year's Super Bowl, that may be a bit of a stretch, but you can do that over at DraftKings Sportsbook. You want to bet on the AFC West winning it, you can bet on that. You want to bet on the Denver Nuggets playing good ball after the All-Star break, you can do that. And, of course, you want to get in on the Colorado Avalanche, you can do that as well. Over at DraftKings Sportsbook, they actually have more opportunities to bet on the Avs as underdogs this year than they have in, like, so many years in the past, because the Avs are going through kind of an up and down right now. So if you want to get in on that, do that at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that promo code DNVR when you sign up. And if you go to DraftKings Sportsbook, you can get in on same-game parlays, which are so much fun. So check them out. Use that promo code DNVR. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Void in Ohio. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
And if you're starting to get excited about the Broncos, make sure you go pick up some new gear from Foco. They have all sorts of different stuff. I'm just pulling it up here. Terrell Davis bobblehead, a commemorative Super Bowl bobblehead, the Miles bobblehead we've got back there. They have everything. A different Terrell Davis bobblehead. What is this? Miles Denver Broncos Christmas mascot Bobble Bro mini bobblehead.
Wow.
And those are all just the bobbleheads. So then you have the pajamas, the socks, the little things that you put, the trinkets, I think is the correct word. Christmas ornaments. So many different things. They've got the gear you wear, the gear you put around the house. So definitely hit them up. They're a local company, but they are national now, so we love supporting them. And they love Colorado sports. They have all the Colorado sports gear you need. And go to foco.com or click the link below in the YouTube description or at the in the podcast description. And all non-sale or non-presale items will be 10% off if you use the code DNVR.
There we go. Use that promo code DNVR. And let's look at some more connections, Henry.
Yep.
Let's look at a little cryptic tweet that we had. So this comes in from Mike. What's his last name? Westoff. And where we got you here, pulling it up right here. And he says, he tweeted this morning, I'm just pulling it up so I can read it. He tweeted this morning, last ride in Jackson Hole before heading to Denver, Colorado to meet up with an old friend. Hashtags here, Henry. Here's where it gets juicy. Hashtag figure it out. Hashtag NFL coach. Hashtag special teams. Hashtag author.
Yep.
So who is Mike Westhoff?
He's a really good special teams coach.
One
of the best. Like he has a case to be one of the very best ever. You know, I'm in the midst of writing the second round of the hot board for who could be hired as assistant coaches. So the defensive one will be up in a couple hours. But in the first version, I almost included him. Because, the thinking right away, it's like, okay, you got Sean Payton. He's going to try to put together a superstar staff. What does that look like? And he was one of the last guys I decided not to write about, and I feel really dumb now. But the reason is he's 75 and he hasn't coached since 2018. So I was like, okay, it'd be a superstar staff. There's just no way, though, right? It turns out it seems like there might be a way. So 2018, 2017, he was with Sean Payton in New Orleans. 2001 to 2012, there was actually a 5-year break in between, 4-year break where he didn't do anything. But 2001 to 2012, he's with the Jets. Obviously, that's 4 years with Rex Ryan, which is another connection that could come into play here. And it is a cryptic tweet, so maybe he's just going down to meet Rex because Rex is in town. Maybe it's just to meet Sean Payton because Sean's in town. Maybe he's going to be the defensive coordinator because both are in town for all we know. But side note on Mike Westhoff. This morning, we got the notification. Mike Westhoff, well, I guess it's ST Coach Mike followed you on Twitter. I was like, oh, did Zach tag him in a tweet from the Broncos account? Did Zach follow him from the Broncos account? And that's why I have a conspiracy theory.
Tell me.
He's 75.
Okay.
He's a man who, in this tweet, tagged _Denver, Colorado, which is not the official Denver, Colorado. That's just a guy on Twitter who tweets the weather.
Yep.
Could he have been searching Denver Broncos and just settled on DNVR Broncos to follow?
Potentially, but I'm going to ruin your dreams right now. I followed him. He followed me back. In my bio, I linked to DNVR Broncos. So my guess is that's how he got there. But we can go with your conspiracy, though.
Yeah.
I like it. But, Henry, he is following someone that covers the Broncos.
Yep.
Me. He is covering.
Oh, and me.
And you.
I was like, wait, you just hit our follows? I'll follow him and get it back.
He's following you, and he's now following the DNVR Broncos account. My guess is he's going around following Broncos people, not just Denver people, Broncos people for a specific reason. The hashtag figure it out. I think we figured you out, Mike. And this would be a Jerry Rosburg hire if I've ever seen it.
The only upgrade on Jerry Rosburg.
Yeah, he has more years as a special teams coach in the NFL. 29 years of coaching special teams in the NFL. That is wild, Henry. That is so much experience. Like you said, downsides that he's 75 years old, that he hasn't coached since 2018. If he posted, the tweet that he posted, he's snowboarding or skiing, I couldn't tell, at Jackson Hole right now. So in terms of being an old 75 or a young 75, he certainly seems like a young 75. You have coaches that sometimes coach into their 80s. And you know what? Sean Payton, he may not be here for 15 years. He may be here for 5 years, and he just may be looking for someone to come in for the next 2 to 4 years to help turn the special teams around and then find someone for the long term. So if I'm guessing, I think the Broncos have their next special teams coordinator. He's going to be in town after a long day of skiing, riding Jackson Hole, and we may get news of that this weekend, early next week. Heck, maybe if he flies down from Jackson Hole to Denver, we get news tonight. But that would be a really good short-ish term hire.
Yep, and kind of you mentioned this before. Typically, guys hire people who they've worked with before. And that gets a lot of hate, where it's you hire all your friends, whatever. It's for really good reason, though. I mean, if your options are, okay, I interviewed this guy for 4 hours. We had a second interview. That one was 8 hours. I've known him for 12 hours. Or you say, how about Mike Westhoff, who I coached with for 2 years and talked to every day?
Yeah.
I'm banking the season on this guy. Who do you choose?
Yeah.
If you like the guy you know well, you take him 10 times out of 10. And so, I mean, it's always tough to say who's going to be the special teams coordinator, because it's just who's to say. This would be a weirdly exciting hire for a special teams coordinator.
Yeah, it would feel very similar to Jerry Rosburg, where I think everyone in Denver wants Jerry Rosburg back. This would be equally just as good. If some people would even make the case that it's better. So I would be all in for this. And what it brings is stability, and the special teams is going to be in good hands. You haven't been able to say that outside of Jerry Rosburg's 2-game stint with the Broncos. You have not been able to say that about anyone in a long time. They've been going after inexperienced guys with not, since Joe D, you can go all the way back to and just say it's been a mess. You would get stability at this position, which would be so key.
And I mean, it's easy to forget about special teams because obviously, but it really does matter, and especially matters for a team like Denver where the margins are very slim. They're not scoring a lot of points. So, they finished 29th in DVOA on special teams, but even things like just by luck, in terms of points lost to special teams luck, things that you can't control, other teams making field goals or where other teams punted or the length of their punts. Again, this is controlled for Denver, so it's not just an elevation thing. They lost 15 points this season just with bad special teams luck.
Yikes.
Those come in the right places. I mean, how many close games where you get 3 in those and one of them, that changes the result? Throw on top of that all the points they lost on special teams that weren't because of luck. Getting somebody who could turn that around, massive.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. Man, we've covered so many different coaches today. Let's cover so many different comments as well. Let's hop into the comment section, hit a super chat first. And our super chat coming in from our friend Rickert says, coaching and scheming comes down to staying ahead of the trend. Give me the DC that stays ahead of the curve. Who would the top defensive coordinator be in that sense?
I still just go back to Rex Ryan. I mean, he's a game planner. That's what he does.
Henry, my pushback to that, specifically to this question, is someone that stays ahead of the curve. Can you really confidently say someone that stays ahead of the curve that's been out of the game for 7 years?
So I was thinking like in an individual game.
Okay.
So like you want to be 2 steps ahead there. In terms of that, I mean, I think the cop-out answer is just to pick somebody young. Where it's like, oh, look, he's new, so he's not something.
Parker,
but I don't even think that's how that works. Like, I don't think you have to be young to have a new idea.
No, you don't.
And so I don't even think I would go that way. Like, it might even be just, it's probably not Mike Zimmer.
Chris Richard,
I don't know, that's tough.
And I was saying his name wrong earlier, but Chris Richard.
But then he's running a defense that the rest of the NFL's moved away from.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I don't know that's him either. So I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, though, is that you don't know somebody's going to be innovative until they innovate,
I'll give a name that the people want. Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips, not in the NFL, but in the XFL. And Henry, I saw that his Houston... Is it Razorbacks or something like that? His Houston team that he's coaching in the XFL is the favorite to win it all.
Oh, I'm sure.
Take him away. Make him the Broncos defensive coordinator.
So is he ahead of the curve? Like he's just going to blitz everybody and play man behind it. That's not ahead of the curve.
For 1 year, he's always going to be the best defensive coordinator that you can find. That first year, you bring him back. So that would be maybe the dream candidate just because of how fun he would be. But obviously probably a short-term sort of guy. A lot of people have mentioned in the comments section, so I just wanted to throw that out. Wow, the first comment coming in from Wade, someone saying no Wade.
Whoa.
That surprises me just because pretty much what I've seen is people really wanting Wade.
I'll say, here's my thought process. So, which defense is everybody copying?
Right now?
Yeah.
Vicks?
Yeah, Vicks.
Yeah.
Vicks. Sean Desai played for Vic.
Yep.
But runs a different defense. So, or not played for, but like coached under
him.
kind of uses like some of the base things, but plays a much more conservative version. So it's not so much like, it's cover 3. Oh, there's man underneath. Oh, there's cover 2. And you're like blitzing and whatever else. It's still like Vic also has like the whole keep the top on the defense, make him run a bunch of plays to get down there. That's one of the core pieces. But Sean Desai is even more conservative than that. And so maybe going even more conservative and saying like, we're playing cover 4 back there. We're playing cover 6 back there. Like, he would do something different than the guy everybody's copying. And so if you're looking for ahead of the curve, if that were to work, people could easily copy that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
There you go.
Maybe it's 2 ahead of the curve.
Odds are, yeah.
And people are saying...
Odds are, yep.
People are saying, oh, Wade still is coaching? How old is he? 75 years old. You bring in a couple of 75-year-olds as your coordinator.
Yeah.
Make Sean Payton feel young.
Wow, which is that was crazy to me. I think I brought this up. Maybe it was before you got there to Arizona. It would be weird. It's weird thinking that Greg Penner is 52 and Sean Payton's 59.
It's very true.
Sean Payton is like significantly, really older than Greg Penner. And you just think of like the old billionaire guys. Like,
I didn't think of it that way. That is weird.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop into the comments on the website. Bronco Only says 1 like per viewer makes the doctor visits fewer. I like that. I like that. Can we get 1 like per viewer right now? You guys are already crushing it. But if we can get some likes, we'd really appreciate it. Hit us with a thumbs up on YouTube. Hit us with some 5-star reviews on podcasts, on Apple, or on Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts. We would really appreciate it. Next one from The Count. Says, I thought I was in lockstep with Hank about dogs before, but my time here in the Big Apple has amplified that sentiment like a Javonte Williams angry run.
Yes.
The city is no place for leashed animals. It takes a special person to have the will to maneuver themselves and a captive beast in these minuscule tracts of open space. They must be the tight end sweeps on first down types. Love, The Count.
I always get kind of freaked out by cats that only stay inside.
Oh, why?
Because I'm from Montana, so we had cats, but the cats, like, they would just run. Like, I'm sure every day the cats were like a mile away just doing cat things.
Yep.
And so, like, my concept of a cat is like, that thing is like, it sleeps here. It has like a day job where it goes and like runs around and kills mice and stuff.
Yep.
And like house cats, very common. I would imagine you have inside cats.
Yep, let them out.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's always kind of weird where it's like, okay, we just coop them up. Also, when you think about fish too much, that's also kind of sad.
Yeah, it's way too sad.
But like, do they even realize?
I hope not.
I hope not also.
Yeah.
But like zoo animals. Like, that's kind of a mixed bag for me because like, it sucks that this lion has to sit inside all day, but at least it doesn't have to go like 2 weeks without a kill and it's
Food
like all
is
stressed
free,
out. Yeah.
easy.
You just like hang out.
Yeah, there's a trade-off, but I try not to think of it too in depth.
If somebody could say like, okay, Zach, you can get this like, let's call a lion enclosure 10,000 square feet.
Okay.
We'll turn it into a house because you're a person.
Okay.
You can have a 10,000 square foot house.
Awesome house.
You can't really ever leave, but there's no more working. There's the food is just brought to you like it is your favorite food. It's not obviously like just like the leg of an antelope like a lion, but it's like 5-star steak every day.
Dang.
You'd still have to turn it down, right?
Yeah, you'd have to. I wouldn't want to be cooped up.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I agree. Man, sad.
It is sad. But also like on a scale from fish to person, how much do you care that you're cooped up? Lion's got to be somewhere in the middle.
Definitely. I think closer to person than fish.
I do too.
Man, so sad, but good thing we're not ending the pod on that because we have 2 more questions. Broncos Only again says double comment day. Yesterday, Hank said it would be freaked up to ask Zach's source on the trade rumors. Then there was an argument about whether or not is an all-time earmuffs on now. I want to know who in the HE double hockey sticks has their kids listening to this podcast. You guys advertise alcohol, gambling, and marijuana delivery. There is a saying that goes, in for a penny, in for a pound. I say let the profanity flow.
Yeah, I mean, the only pushback is that once every like 3 months or so, we get the message where it's like, hey, I have my kid in the car on the way to school and you said this, and that's just kind of a bummer.
It's true.
There was one person in particular a few years ago who
there was, yes. And I understand. I understand every side.
I do too.
We have some people that definitely want to hear some F-bombs, but we do have some people that want to be able to, listen to it on their Amazon Alexa at home. And maybe I just made someone's Alexa go off in their house.
Hey, Siri, turn on some music. See if that worked. Oh, Siri definitely
Siri
does.
now knows.
HomePod.
It's supposed to know your voice.
No, you don't.
For the HomePod, it knows my voice specifically.
Oh, that's
so
true.
we'll only activate to that. Maybe they're all like that, maybe not. But I understand both.
Yep.
That's why, I kind of take the F-bomb instead of just blurting the F word out. I'll let Chris Sims do it and not scold him, though. And, I'll call Ryan out when he does it, but not actually silence him in that.
Like if you're the father driving your kids to school, you can say, this is friendly to anybody. You know, it's not excessive.
Right.
We're not just going to go crazy with it. Like, because there is a line where you're like, okay, the kids should not be listening to this. Like, if it was every sentence. So, just reasonable.
I completely agree. And last comment coming in from Nash Broncos says, never mind rivers, oceans, or lakes. The true debate is green chili, red chili, or Christmas style. Yes, I know
What?
they all have their place, but what is your favorite? Mine is green. Henry, are you questioning what is Christmas style?
Yes.
It's a little red, little green.
I guess that's
It's a mix
very
of
simple.
the two.
I don't think I've... Wait, is red chili just like chili that... like, oh, I got a can of chili.
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure.
I think red chili is just like chili cheeseburgers.
Oh, yeah.
Chili cheeseburger. So
Or like a hot dog. You put the chili... Yeah.
So that would be normal chili?
Yeah.
So normal chili. Man, I got to say, I mean, green chili's great, but I love beans. And
I love beans too.
are in
I love
traditional
beans too.
chili. So I'm going to go just a traditional red chili. I've never had actually Christmas style.
Neither have I. Which I bet would actually be incredible.
It would be, but is the green chili like too watery? I'm afraid that the wateriness of a green chili would make the red chili just a watery chili, and I don't want watery red chili.
Like, my thing is, if I were just to eat a bowl,
Yep.
I'd probably just take the regular chili,
I
the
would
red
too.
chili.
Yep.
But which one could I not live without? Probably the green chili, because I put the green chili on so many things, and I so rarely... Like, I haven't had just, like, a pot of chili in I don't even know how long. Years,
Man,
probably.
I've had it past couple of months.
Really?
And
I
it was
used to-
definitely the red chili.
Back in college, like, half my dinners would just be, like, a can of chili or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
See, it'd be tough to give up.
Exactly.
It's not only a main, but it can be a side. You can put on hot dogs, and of course,
That is
green.
true.
This isn't putting green chili down. It's just saying that red chili has the beans.
See, and I have so much green chili that this is making me really want some just red chili. Maybe I'll go Sonic.
And it's
No
after
free ads,
1
but-
p.m., haven't had lunch yet.
Yep.
Man, that means we need to sign off and go get ourselves some chili. I'm
Yep.
going for the red. You're going for?
I think I'm going for red.
You're going for red. There we
I
go.
hate myself, though.
Look at this. We disagree all pod, and then
There
we
we
come
go.
together at the end to agree. Thank you all so much for rocking and rolling with us today. We'll be back for our Friday pod tomorrow. Make sure to stay tuned. Hit us with that like, subscribe, and we will see you all tomorrow for the final pod of the week.